Hello everybody, my name is Chris, and thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Sinner's Rant. What's up everybody, and thank you for my less than 20 viewers who have been constantly viewing these videos, for continually supporting me and checking out my content. But as you know, this is the 10th episode of the Sinner's Rant for the first season. Not that it makes a difference, I just, want to, organize things in that sense. But if you're watching this, thank you again, and I just want to get straight to the topic. So I don't realize why I haven't talked about this topic at all, considering the fact that it's definitely important to know and to think about and to discuss. And the topic that I want to talk about today is Theology Matters. So, in essence, what is theology? Theology is basically the study of God, trying to find any information about Him. I'm pretty sure I had a formal definition. Let me check it out real quick. Alright, so from Webster's dictionary, it says, theology is the study of the nature of God and religious truth, rational inquiry into religious questions. So, there you go. And the reason why this topic is important is because a lot of Christians don't actually like the word. A lot of Christians tend to fall away from it and think that it's some scary big monster that you cannot touch or cannot tackle, because there are a number of reasons that make it a bad thing. And I think a big reason why a lot of Christians don't want to touch this word or even delve into the understanding of what it means is, like I said before, the bad connotations that have been associated with it. Such as, theology divides people, Chris. Theology is all about doctrine and proving who's right and who's wrong. I've also heard some reasoning saying, I don't really care about theology, man. I just care about Jesus or God. Or, man, theology isn't a big deal. All you gotta do is really have faith. And when people give these reasons, I have to say, yeah, you're correct. Theology in and of itself is very divisive. But there are a lot of other things that are just as divisive, such as sports teams being the number one thing. Politics, that's also a big one as well. Your favorite food. Your top 10 movies, your favorite clothing brand. All these kinds of issues and topics are extremely divisive to some people and can get very heated when there's an opinionated response regarding these topics. But let me tell you, none of those things are as important as theology. And here's the crazy thing. For one to say, you know what, Chris, theology isn't a big deal, I just want to focus on Jesus, that statement in and of itself is a theological statement. Any statement saying I don't care about theology or theology is not important, theology is divisive, all of those things are theological statements. Okay, I'm going to stop saying theology for a quick second and just explain to you that even atheists and people who don't really care or believe in God have their own form of trying to figure out if God exists or not. Basically, understanding this word, which I'm not going to say yet, helps us understand how we live our lives, how we conduct ourselves in an orderly fashion, how we understand what we believe and why we believe it. If you don't have a theology or a solid foundation on theology, then you can be susceptible to a lot of bad things and false teachings that make you a victim, unfortunately. And so the reason why I'm so adamant about this topic personally is because there are a lot of bad doctrines and bad theologies out there. A lot of bad worldviews that don't perceive God in the correct form or correct light. And you can't say that, your theology works for you and let mine work for me. It doesn't work that way. We cannot both be right. We can both be wrong, but we cannot both be right, because those conflicts, those statements and those views ultimately will be clashing with each other. And if you think that theology is all just about studying up doctrines and being well-versed in Christian lingo and understanding Christian terms, it's not that. Ultimately, for me, theology is wanting to know God better as a person in a relationship with Him, understanding what He has done in my life and how He has changed me. And the reason why I'm so serious about this topic is because if you yourself are not serious about wanting to know more about God, then what's that whole thing about Jesus, man? Like, you can't know more about Jesus without studying more of the Bible. You can't know what right things to believe if you don't study the Bible. You can't know anything concerning God if you don't actually care about theology. There's this interesting quote from Dr. James White, and it reads, "If you are a Christian, you are a theologian. You have no choice. Theology is simply knowing about God. In fact, since Christians are called to grow in their knowledge of God," which he references the Bible verse, 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 18, he continues, "Part of the very goal of Christian life is theology, is knowing. Theology is a normal part of the Christian life, a part that gives rise to everything else." It's not something that you should be scared of. Yes, it is divisive, okay? I'm not going to lie. There are a lot of Christians who are willing to cut off relationships with other Christians because their theology isn't the same. I think my goal is, I want to talk with you about our differences in theology and our understanding of God and how He works, and let's try to figure out where we can find common ground and where we can both correct the incorrect views in our thinking and our understanding. That's all I want. Unfortunately, not a lot of people want to have that conversation because the fear of being wrong scares people. It really does. It scares them to the point where they are willing to either die with their incorrect beliefs or just completely be ignorant forever because they don't want to even try. I'm not that kind of person. I hope you are not. And so what I'm trying to get out of this is theology matters. And ultimately, if you're a Christian, whether you're Christian or not, trying to figure out whether God exists or doesn't exist, trying to figure out whether God gives good gifts or whether God doesn't give anything, whether God is good at all of those questions that you have to do with theology. So no matter what, you can't escape it. Again, to say that you don't care, that's a statement in itself concerning how much you want to know about God, which is theology. And I'm overusing the word, okay? I get it, you're probably tired of it, but at the end of the day, please, let's have legitimate discussions about doctrines that relate to knowing about God. That's, personally for me, that's all I want. I just want these conversations to continue on, not just in my circle, but in other Christian circles, because a lot of Christians actually have never had the opportunity to talk to someone else about their differing doctrines and theology. And that's the scary part, because once you start opening up to other people, you'll actually realize how similar you really are and how much you're willing to know more about God and compromise at the end of the day. And what I mean by compromise is not like, oh, let's accept incorrect beliefs 100%. No, let's learn to agree. Let's learn to agree to disagree and continue to ask God to humble ourselves so that we can better our thinking and our view of Him. Ultimately, have a better view of theology. And if my thoughts resonate with you, please give me a comment below or, send me a message. I'm willing to respond. I'm willing to talk. That's one of the biggest reasons I have this channel, is so that we talk about these things, because let's face it, no one likes talking about religion, because right now we're in this political crap storm of opinions. So let's not forget about it completely, but let's learn to talk about something a little bit more important. Well, not a little bit, but definitely more important, because that involves a spiritual eternality that, again, no one couldn't really care about, but it's definitely more important than your favorite pizza. It's true. So, with all that being said, thanks for viewing this. Have a wonderful day. Like and subscribe if you want. But ultimately, show this to somebody so they can also talk about these things too. God bless.